Hey, my name is Jillian Wendelin. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist here in Las Vegas, Nevada. We do neurofeedback at our clinic, and I want to spend a more long-form kind of video talking about what is neurofeedback, how do we explain that to people, our best metaphors for explaining neurofeedback, and talking about the different phases of neurofeedback. So if that sounds interesting to you, go ahead and keep watching. So number one, what is neurofeedback? Neurofeedback is exactly what it sounds like. Neuro, brain, feedback, real-time feedback to your brain, right? It's a complex machine, and it is complex to learn as well, how to give it to people and how to make it work for your practice. But the principle is really simple. It's all about teaching your brain how to do something different. So let's say you had a lot of trauma in your life, and maybe that's not even big T traumas. Maybe that's little T traumas like not feeling special in your household, or not having enough to eat, or maybe having dirty clothes to wear. Those are little T traumas, what we call adverse childhood experiences. If you have enough of those, what's happened is that your nervous system is wired to be stressed. It's wired to feel overwhelmed all the time. And so for someone like you, what we do is go in and we start trying to teach the nervous system how to do something different, aka relax. For myself, I used to find it really difficult to relax as well. But with the help of neurofeedback, I am relaxing, I am focusing, I feel more stable in my life. I'm keeping things organized, which was not normal for me before. So the idea is that we can teach the brain how to do something different. So you start off with an EEG machine. So the same thing your doctor would hook up to you to see if you're having seizures. And you're sitting in a big comfy chair and you're hooked up on your head. All the machines are different, but the idea is connect to the head, get a good connection. I like in-office neurofeedback because we know that we're getting a really good signal. Whereas at home, it's a little bit harder to tell because it's an untrained person trying to hook up. And even occasionally, my most experienced techs will have difficulty hooking clients up. So I prefer in office. So, you're hooked up at a few sites on the head, and then it's connected to an EEG machine, which is then connected to a standard laptop. And on the laptop, there's software loaded that is going to react to your brainwaves. So really fast, it's going to be giving treats or consequences. And treats kind of sound like nice music. And then the consequences sound like either skips in the music, little silence, or a shoo kind of sound. And of course, it's more complicated than that, but that's the easiest way to explain it. And so over time, as we sit with this training, just like we would if we sat with a coach or someone who is teaching us another skill. Let's say it was a piano teacher, right? You're sitting with your piano teacher and over again, she's saying, "Oh, don't do it that way. Do it this way." Or she's saying, "Yes, that was great," right? Your brain is getting that reinforcement for its actual brain waves, which is just so exciting to me. I feel so lucky to have found neurofeedback and have the ability to realize that we can teach the brain so many things that we didn't even know that we could teach it. So take, for instance, bipolar disorder, which in my field, in the, marriage and family therapy world and the psychology world, we think of bipolar disorder as something, relatively difficult to treat. And, it's usually with medications and lots of therapy. So when I found out that there was something that could actually teach the brain how to stabilize itself, how to stay within a certain mood threshold, that was so exciting to me. I mean, actually, at first I kind of was like, oh yeah, right, we'll see. I really didn't believe that it was going to work. I actually gave away our neurofeedback for the first client with bipolar disorder for free because I felt like, who knows? I don't know if this is going to help you. But after that, there's been no looking back. That changed that person's life and so many other people's lives. Now, do you still have bipolar disorder? I don't know, but you're not exhibiting the behaviors of somebody who has up and downs in their moods anymore. So it's quite amazing in my estimation, and I just feel so grateful. So coming back to the actual machine. So as you sit down, as you kind of submit yourself to this training, right? And we call them training sessions. So as you sit in this training. I mean, it's kind of boring. Nobody really loves it, but they love what it's doing for their life, right? So as you sit, it takes between 5 and 8 sessions to start noticing something. Some people are really lucky and get something right off the bat. And then others, it takes, I would say 8 is the max before we kind of get the feeling that maybe your brain needs something different, right? And even that is pretty rare. I would say we're getting the first protocol correctly about 85-90% of the time, I would say. So yeah, you sit down between 5 and 8 sessions is when we start noticing something. And so the best metaphor I've come up for with this is kind of like a dimmer switch, So instead of a light switch of before I started neurofeedback, I was having 4 panic attacks a week. And now I'm having none, right? That would be a light switch. We think about it as more of a dimmer switch. So instead of 4, maybe I had 3 this week, or maybe I still had 4, but their intensity was so much less. And that was really significant. And so as we kind of turn this dimmer switch and the light is starting to get brighter and brighter in people's lives, the hope is that eventually for somebody who's having 4 panic attacks a week, that they have none, and that when they encounter something that makes them anxious, they just kind of feel it inside and they go, ooh, what is that? Let me ask myself some questions. Let me meta on myself is what my clients and I start saying eventually, let me meta about myself and kind of reflect, what's going on for me? What am I feeling? Is this a signal? Right? Because I think so often our intuition is really thwarted by our trauma responses, right? We're having this reaction to a situation where it's in reality, it should be that we get to listen to that still small voice inside that says, something about this doesn't feel right, right? Whereas if we're having panic attacks all week long and our anxiety is just through the roof, we can't even tune into what is that intuition, And I think that's a really common thread that I hear with almost every client, every client who's interested in this intuition thing. They say, I've been able to slow down and listen to myself and it's not so cloudy inside, And then I also want to be really clear that there is no shock, there's no pain, nothing like that. Lots of people also want to hear if there are any side effects. Now, there's many different approaches, right, to mental health and helping people out with their mental health. And I think the reason why neurofeedback was so intriguing and exciting to me is that there's no long-term side effects. It's not, there are some medications that can cause long-term side effects even after you get off of them. Not that I'm definitely a fan of medication, and if that's the best choice for you or that's the thing that works, great. I've been on medication myself for psychiatric issues and I was so grateful for it. But neurofeedback kind of giving us the option to work on the brain without having to have any side effects long term. Now, are there short term side effects? Yes. And yes and no, I guess is the short answer. Some people have absolutely none. And so, but the way that we like to think about it is more like soreness. So if we exercise our body, we might feel sore, right? If I did a workout on my forearms, they're going to be sore the next day. This is like a workout for the brain. So as we work out our brain, yes, there can be little things that happen here and there. The number one thing that we see is sometimes when people are on the machine, they just feel really tired. And that makes sense to me. And in my heart, that feels like a good sign, right? It says that muscle group inside of your brain is weak and we need to work it out. Your brain needs that training. So it's exciting to me when I see somebody tired on the machine. Not that I want you to be tortured, but it means something's happening. Something is actually changing. So tiredness, occasionally people will have a little headache after, just like you would if you were concentrating on something else, right? Like some people, if they're really studying hard and they're I don't know why this is studying hard. For some people, if they're really working hard or they're typing a bunch and they're just focused on a project, they might have a light headache afterwards too. So kind of in the same realm. And then, there are some people who will come in and be like, oh, I didn't sleep as well that night. Okay, cool. We just report it to the machine and then it goes about adjusting your protocol as necessary. So that's the story on side effects. If they're super temporary, just like being sore in the body. There's no long-term side effects because this is a teaching modality. That's the whole point, is we're teaching the brain, and you can't teach the brain how to be dysfunctional. It will just kick it out. Our brain goes from dysfunctional towards functional. And so unless something acts upon it, right? So if we were trying to teach it how to be dysfunctional, it's just going to kick it out. That's what we know from the research. And let me speak to the research for just a moment. I think some people do a quick Google search or they read a random article. There was one old study back in the day that kind of said this is the same as placebo, but there are over 192 studies right now that validate neurofeedback and that inform the way that the machines run. So this is this is FDA cleared. This is teaching. There's nothing surgical. There's nothing dangerous. One of our mentors says that this is as dangerous as learning how to play the violin, and so not dangerous at all. So the natural question that comes up after we talk about, how long will it take me to start noticing something is, how long do I have to keep doing this? Do I have to do it for my whole life? And the answer is no, for sure not. I mean, I'm sure I'll keep doing neurofeedback for my whole life because I'm just obsessed and I want to do every experimental protocol that we have. But no, you do not have to do it for the rest of your life. The average person that comes through our clinic ends up doing about 40 sessions. Now, that's not necessarily because they needed 40 sessions to get them to feeling better. Most people start noticing something between 5 and 8. They're significantly better by session 10. And then by 20, those results are sealed in and they're doing really, really well. But at that point, people have a decision to make. Do they want to see what else the machine can do for them? We have many protocols available that do different things for the brain. And so at the beginning of their work with us, I give them a perspective at the beginning of those sessions and say, okay, these are the ones that I think could be most helpful for you. And my next video is going to be all about that, the different protocols, what can they do for you, how can they help, and a metaphor of building a house that I really love to help people understand more in depth, what is this? What is this neurofeedback? How can it help me? And in what order, right? So we'll dig into that next time, and I hope this was helpful for you. Have a great day.